Welcome back to the Real Estate Show on KMED this weekend. Pete Belcastro, one of the real estate guys, with you today. Joe's has a baseball game today, so he'll be back with us next Saturday here, along with Laurel Adams from All Cities Property Management. We will update the rental market going around Jackson County. As we told you, it's really tight. People are really scrambling. Boy, I had some 4 young people came into our office at John L. Scott down in Ashland yesterday when I was on floor duty, and they were, looking for a rental. And we said, well, here's some rental companies, that you can contact. And we talked a little bit about rentals, told them how tight it was, and stuff. And these kids, they left. And I was like, I don't know if they'll ever find a rental property because so many people don't want to rent to students, and that's become a big issue, and all these kind of things that are out there. Anyway, there's always something going on, I suppose, to keep us interested and keep us occupied. That's for sure. Well, Larry Frank is a principal broker at Remax Ideal Brokers, and Larry and I go back to TV news days together years ago, and we're still kicking around, which is really good. Larry, of course, expanded his horizon and became principal broker, making all sorts of money, I know, out there, Remax, and nice to have you here today.
This is where I start laughing, right?
Yeah, at the making of the money part. I'm sure you were going to say that. Yeah. Well, anyway, first of all, welcome to the show. Nice to have you back.
Pete, what a pleasure. Thank you for having me back.
Well,
and just before you get off of it, you were talking about rentals. It doesn't have to be in Ashland. I was told by someone yesterday that the vacancy factor here in our area is at 1%.
Well, when Laurel Adams was here last time, a few weeks ago, about a month ago, I think the official rental vacancy rate was like 1.7, 1.6. So it still seems to be tight. And obviously, as you're hearing it, we're seeing it, and people are really scrambling. And that's a tough. They're in a tough situation. There's no question about that. And for all sorts of reasons, as we find out, why are we having fewer places available? Many have been sold, et cetera, right?
Well, we've seen the REOs and the short sales, and a lot of those have worked themselves through that market, and we'll get into it later. But when you see the statistics about how many REOs were there 5 years ago and how many REOs are on the market now, it's very surprising.
Yeah, and think about that for our listeners about what those figures might be. Because, 5 years ago, certainly when we started our show here, I tell that to people today, 67, I'll never forget that, 67% of all sales in Jackson County, one of those months, was a short sale or a foreclosed property.
That's
67%. Right. And that's been absolutely flipped. Well, anyway, Remax International, which is, the biggest... Remax is the biggest real estate company in the world.
We are the giant.
And anyway, one of the things I really like about a company like that is that they compile in statistical information that I think is so helpful. It certainly paints our picture of what the market is, because Larry and I can tell you what we think is happening, and that's just it. So what we think, but statistics really, I think, bear out a lot of the information. So Remax, has a national housing, what is it, Larry? A national housing analysis that they do, and that kind of paints the picture nationally. Tell us a little bit about what that might be.
That's right. Remax International has its own research and development group, and that group went out and has been monitoring approximately 52 markets here nationwide. And we're fortunate that report just was released. And so there's some really interesting statistics about our market, and specifically about nationwide, what's going on and why have we seen the increase in activity. And so if I may, I'll just jump right in there.
Yeah.
It says for March home sales, we've got rebounding prices and that they're going higher. And the reason is that for March 2014 saw home sales increase over previous months. Now, while the sales were 10.1% below levels than they were 1 year ago, they rose significantly, which is 24.6%. They rose over February.
Well, things are rising. I think in all 50, and most of those markets that they're basically telling us here, correct?
That's right. In those 52.
And significant increases.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What do they attribute it to, Larry? I mean, it has to be something. We always wonder here, and when you do our show all the time, we always wonder, well, where's it coming from? Where's this demand that we're seeing in Jackson County coming from? So what does the big boys say is causing the rebound, I guess?
Pete, good question. I've asked myself that question numerous times over the last year, but I think what it boils down to is that there's a confidence coming back in the market because we've worked through those short sales, we've worked through the REOs, the foreclosures, and all that. And people are getting more confident in the market. That our economy is much more stable. Mm-hmm. And so now they're willing to go out and put themselves into debt, whether it's going out and buying a new car because the old one's worn out, or buying a new home. It's the same philosophy. If the confidence is out there, then the general public will respond and they will buy and sell. If there's no confidence, we're back to 62% of all the transactions are REO, and nobody's gonna,
and nobody's happy. Well, that's probably obviously happening around here because we're certainly seeing activity. I know we were talking about. Of course, we all look at the Southern Oregon MLS where we get our local statistics from, and where agents go to find out what's there and all the kind of. It's a great website and everything, but. My God, this week there were well, what about listings in other places? And before we start talking about here, in terms of how do we compare? I guess our point was, how do we compare in Jackson and Josephine counties to the national trends that you're seeing in terms of days on the market for homes here versus in those metro areas? What's the not the vacancy? I guess there's vacancy rates, but what are those kind of things? Because that's where I think we can compare ourselves to how are we doing. Compared to larger metropolitan areas.
Well, okay. The study that I'm referring to in here is the RE/MAX National Housing Report. Okay, and that is released to all of the RE/MAX agents and the franchises. Mm-hmm. And to answer your question, according to this report, March, which was last month, marks the 22nd consecutive month with an average days on market of below 90.
Below 90?
Below 90, and that's on a national level.
And in our level here, in our area, our average days in the market are 64. So we're like that's a month. That's a month difference, which means that would tell me that our market is a little bit hotter than maybe even those markets are. Okay, what else you got in there? That's an interesting thing there. Yeah, it's a month. That's a month.
You're absolutely right.
30 days difference.
And you know what? There were a number of top cities that were reporting double-digit increases.
In pricing?
That's correct.
Mm-hmm.
And those cities included, now what's going to surprise you is that the first one to take the hits, the one that really took the severe hits, appears to be the first ones to recover. So we saw Detroit is up 34%. Las Vegas, that was terrible.
Those were terrible places. Yeah, well, that's probably why they're growing, Larry. The prices were so cheap, huh?
Yeah, up 23.3%. San Francisco, California, 18.6. Miami, 17.1. Honolulu, Hawaii, 16. Atlanta, Georgia.
Wow.
And when we were doing this before, we were saying the sand states, which were California, Arizona, Florida. Those are the ones that were really hard hit, and those are the ones that appear to be recovering the fastest.
Well, so if we come to our own communities here, in pricing, say, from a year ago, I guess we go. Is that a year ago comparison? I suppose what you just said there, is that what that is, or 5 year?
That would be a year.
Huh? All right. Well, prices, our median prices then, are about 8% in Ashland, 16% in Talent, 15% in Phoenix. 35% in West Medford. I mean, that's the median price of what we've seen. So from a year ago. So it seems as well, Larry, that we're a little bit better maybe than even some of those areas that you're talking about.
You're right. And just to add to it, let's talk about the national median. The national median property was 186,941, and for the March, the median sales price was 3.6% higher than February's price of the same year, and 8.8% above the prices of last March.
Yeah.
So that would be over a year ago.
Now, one of the things I want to remind you also is that remember we were talking about how low the available inventory was, and in a normal market, according to the experts who classes and things, and the experts say you should have a 6-month inventory available to you to have a normal market. Well, we're not quite at 6 months there. I know some of those statistics are, but what I'm encouraged about is that from a year ago to today, we have almost 200 more listings that are out there, properties that are available on the market compared to a year ago. That is actually a pretty good sign, isn't it? I think that's okay.
I think that's a real healthy sign. What we're seeing now is that in January, we were 25 to 30 listings a day. As February and March, you're looking at an average of about 75 properties, because our season, our sales season actually begins in that April-May window. I was talking to one of my agents just before I came over here, and last night before he turned off the computer and headed home, he went onto the MLS and said that we had 102 new listings entered the market yesterday.
That's in a 24-hour period. That's amazing. I saw 75 on there, and I had never seen 75, so I turned mine off a little bit earlier then, because I was surprised at how many there were, and they were all over from Jackson and Josephine counties. Both of them have a lot of that. Did you see today, and I just want to mention this to folks, we talk a lot about rural properties here, on our show with the Jackson Soil Water Conservation District, and of course my own interest in, I love rural properties, and the Mail Tribune had an interesting article this morning, if you get a chance to read that, regarding the size and the number of farms have decreased in Jackson County, according to statistics being kept like that. At least the large farms, which is what we're so used to seeing, to going down to smaller acreages, younger people. And he calls them, hobby farms. That's going to be the future agriculture here. I don't like that term, because it's hard work. It's not a hobby. It's work, first of all.
Well, you're talking to somebody who's lived out in the Applegate for the last 26 years.
Yeah.
And the reason why you're seeing the shortage and why people are selling their properties is because of the Senate Bill 100, and we go back to the beginning where Senate Bill 100 was implemented, and then in 1973 they changed and implemented the new zoning laws, and the restrictions what a property owner could do and not do on his property, and how many homes could he put on it. And so we've seen a long list of barricades that have really been put in front of a farmer or a rancher, and if they can't go out there and they can't do what they need to do to make a living on their own land legislatively, they have to sell out.
Well, part of the problems, like when my father, we had our ranch, we were able to lease land around us for cattle to graze and things like that. As urban encroachment came around, those lands became unavailable, and they were used, and so you couldn't expand and you couldn't earn the income that you needed to support. Even 100 acres was not enough to support the income that it takes to do that. That's really a problem that a lot of people are facing, and we're certainly seeing small acreages, Larry,
you're dealing with the smart growth concept, which is a misnomer, and that concept is that you do not allow your growth to go outward. Your growth goes inward and up. And look at us now with some of the finest farmland in this state has now homes sitting on it, because the developer could not go outside of the city limits, outside the urban growth boundary, and do any development.
Yeah, and they're talking about the urban reserves are going to take more of that in the future, And so the future, it really call into question the future of farming here and what it's going to be. And the large farmers, the large parcels are going to kind of give away to probably smaller pieces. Our valley's not very big, is it? I mean, it's only 8 miles wide. I mean, the Rogue Valley is not a very big place. And the debate we're having, have you ever heard, have you ever heard, Larry, the GMO debate here? Have you ever heard so many people talking about farms and farming and food and things like that in a political campaign? I have never heard that here.
That is a hot topic.
It's amazing, isn't it? And people are talking about it, and so many people don't, are confused by a lot of it. And of course, the advertising, et cetera, et cetera. And I come down to the topic is great to talk about, and it's an interesting one. And the future, what will GMO products bearing a Jackson County name, GMO-free products, is that going to be a big thing for us in the future for all these hobby farmers who we're saying are going to be taking over much of our agriculture here in the future?
Well, I don't know, because yes means no and no means yes.
I don't know. It's interesting. Anyway, great topics, great questions today. We're with Larry Frank from RE/MAX Ideal Brokers here on The Real Estate Show. We'll take your calls next if you have any for us today in our live show. This show repeats at 9 o'clock on Sunday morning, and all of our shows are available at realestateshoworegon.com. We're coming right back after this. The Real Estate Show rolls on KMED this weekend. Pete Belcastro with you here today. Joe will be back next week as well. So lots going on. We'll catch up on the rental market that we've been talking a little bit about today. Next week with Laurel Adams from All Cities Property Management. And then 2 weeks, we'll update the water situation around here with the Jackson Soil and Water Conservation District. So lots going on. A busy month. I love the month of May. I mean, isn't it beautiful? Isn't it beautiful outside right now? I mean, it is so green, so lush. I was on the Greenway yesterday with my dogs, and I'm going, look at this gorgeous, beautiful place. And I'm thinking about 3 months, it's not going to look like this, Larry. I don't think.
Well, this is why we all moved here. I mean, this is absolutely just a gorgeous place to live, and all of the recreational things we can do. You're 2 hours from surfing and an hour from skiing.
Yeah, it tells me I'm pessimistic about some of the future of water and all these kind of things, but I mean, we depend so much on it, and this is going to be kind of a rough time. Even though I was by Immigrant Lake the other day, and since that rains earlier this week, that thing came up quite a few feet. I don't know if it's going to fill or not still, but anyway, the people who manage our water, they're very aware of, obviously what's going on, and they do a great job. So, boy, they're really going to be tested this year, won't they, though? Really?
I think we all need to be aware that we're going to have to watch our water consumption, and that we may find ourselves in some type of water rationing.
And our future is going to be, some of the plans that we've seen from the Wise Water projects around to using of effluent treated water back for agriculture uses and things like that. I mean, that's how you certainly look at California. My goodness, I drove through there up from Arizona a few weeks ago and through the Bakersfield area, mile after mile of orchards. And what are they going to do when they don't have hardly any water? I mean, there's no water down there either, so it's going to be really quite a summer. Anyway, on that wonderful note, we'll continue on here. We've seen changes, though, Larry. Anyway, 770-5633 is our number here on Saturday morning. If you want to give Larry a question here about the market or what you're seeing as well, if you have any questions, 770-5633. Okay, what you got?
Hey, we were speaking just before the break about the difference between distressed properties versus now compared to, a couple of
5 years ago.
Yeah. Right. I have some interesting statistics let's talk about Ashland markets right now. And these are closed transactions from January 1st to March 31st. We're looking at 40 transactions that have closed normally, which is 93% of the market. Well, the REO, or the distressed properties, were only 2 properties, and short sales were 1. So, I mean, the difference between 93% is a standard regular market. That's incredible. That shows that we are recovering, and people are becoming more confident.
Yeah. All right. Yep. We got a caller on the line. Hello, caller. Welcome to the Real Estate Show today. Whoops. There you are, caller. Hello, welcome to the Real Estate Show. Go ahead.
Oh, hi. You're taking calls now.
Yes, sir.
Hey, I was hoping to call in about that GMO issue. You know, you're talking about land values and things like that. The major GMO grower here is a foreign corporation that can't even grow its product in its own country, and they come out here and they pay $300 to $500 a year per acre to a landowner, not even a farmer, and they take their seeds out of the county. You know, they do very little to add value to our local economy. You know,
I think I think that's one of the arguments raised is that if someone wants to grow genetic GMO seeds or whatever, should they go do that, Larry, into an area that's already doing that, the Midwest, for example? Mm-hmm. And there are few areas really left like the Rogue Valley that are pretty pure in terms of that kind of thing. And I think that in the future, because it's not, the GMO issue is not going to go away or anything, and certainly I think it would help overall agriculture. I think a little bit, especially as we talk about smaller farms, people doing more organic kinds of things, farm to table, things like that. Would GMO-free products from Jackson County command a good dollar on the markets of which we would use in the future?
Right. Well, you can look at Marin County, for example. They were a $50 million ag economy in 2004 when they passed their ban, and 8 years later it grew to $80 million.
Really? Interesting. Didn't know that.
But then most of that was through the expansion and explosive growth, organic products from boutique growers.
Yeah, well, and look at us here.
That's a $25 million increase. Now, our direct farm sales economy in Jackson County is about $13.5 million. Okay, and what if we just got 50% growth?
I think it'll grow. No, I agree.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I mean, now you compare that. You know, $5, $6, $7, $10 million growth in the local economy compared to the $50,000 to the foreign corporation this year. I think it's a no-brainer.
All right. Hey, good comments. Thanks for the call. We appreciate that very much. I don't disagree with that. I think in terms of land value, because that's what we talk about all the time. Right. I know, Larry, with our listeners, is how can you enhance the value of your property? And people moving here on these 5 acres and 10 acre places would have some irrigation water, and they want to do something like that. Having the whole issue of contamination, those kinds of things. Even though I loved the articles, the citizens group that came together and came 5 arguments for and 5 arguments for each of the measure there in the GMO issue there. Again, we talk about. People are talking about it. It's a big thing, and the decision is going to have impact for obviously a long time. So,
Pete, I would love to hear more from a lot of the vineyards. I don't know if anybody out there's taken a drive out to the Applegate 238, gone down on North Applegate Road, and has witnessed the investments that these vineyards are putting in our area. And I would be very interested to hear what they think.
All right. Hey, we've got another caller on the line. Hello, caller. Welcome to the show today.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
I've been out in the Applegate for 30 some odd years now, and actually there's a real boom in agriculture out there. And it's all thanks to medical marijuana. All kinds of people making money.
I wonder if they're counting that towards the increase in agricultural products. So that's certainly happening. There's no question about that. And it's also happening in other areas. Do you see it Do you see it, though, in other areas happening also? Do you see other small farmers, small group, small plots? Are you seeing more agriculture-type activity out there besides medical marijuana?
We do have a neighbor that has put in more of a vegetable, actually what was originally pasture land. He's turning it into growing onions and that type of what am I thinking? Anyhow, more of your cold weather vegetables.
Well, if we can figure out how to do that year round for local restaurants and things like that, we'd have a blooming agriculture community that's going to be continuing to grow. But you're right, Larry. They're out there. The investments are there, and so it comes. It's really interesting. I like the debate is good.
Right. I mean, because this debate, if you're talking to somebody who's invested multi-millions of dollars into investing in the irrigation and the vines, the land, and the development. How do they feel about having a GMO?
Well, my thing is, again, why don't you go grow it in areas that already are growing it, that are already contaminated? It doesn't matter too much, and leave the clean, pristine places like this Rogue Valley. That's why we're here. It could be left alone, and it could be, as the callers have said, it could very much be a big boom to agriculture here overall in the future. So, I mean, that to me is a debate. It's not a debate about law enforcement coming onto farms. That's the craziest argument. I can't believe they're spending that money on that kind of an argument. The debate is really, do you want it grown here, or do you want this area to remain free of GMO-influenced pollens, whatever it is that it is? Interesting topic, that's for sure.
And we'd love to hear the economics on both sides.
And that's a hard one, isn't it?
Absolutely.
How much? I mean, we've got a place. I mean, talk about organic kinds of things. Look, we've got Amy's Kitchen here, and they make organic soup here. I mean, we have an opportunity to do more in the future. Anyway, it'll go on. This topic will go on and on. The Real Estate Show here on KMED. We got one more section to go here. We're with Larry Frank, principal broker at RE/MAX Ideal Brokers on the Real Estate Show. This show repeats Sunday at 9 o'clock here on KMED, AM 1440. And of course, you go to YouTube, check out Real Estate Show Oregon. We'll be right back. The Real Estate Show continues on KMED for this weekend. Pete Belcastro, one of the real estate guys, with you here today. And gee, thanks for being with us. Got a good show today. I always enjoy kind of lively debates and lively topics about things, and certainly that's happening today as we get ready to vote. You know, the extension service levy. The extension service, Larry, is I grew up a 4-H or 10-year 4-H member. Sure. And I love the Oregon State University. Of course, I'm an OSU grad, the OSU Extension Service. Please vote yes on that. I'll just tell you that for that nickel, it's my property tax, $7.77. So, I mean, I support that because what a great deal that is for us. Anyway, that's coming up as well. So lots of things to consider, that's for sure. We have another caller on the line. Hello, caller. Welcome to the Real Estate Show.
Hello, how are you?
Okay.
My name's Tom, and I have a question for you. You have the Jackson Soil and Water District as your one of your sponsors.
They're one of our partners, yes.
Yes, and I have a question. Why can't the Agriculture Extension District for gardens, farms, and forest and 4-H, why can't that be rolled into the Jackson Soil and Water District since it's already there?
Well, probably. Well, the reason the Extension Service is what it is that that's under federal law, under the land grant colleges. So a school like Oregon State gets a third of the funding for the Extension Service comes from Oregon State University. A third of it comes from the federal government in their programs for this. And then the local community is supposed to provide the other third of that funding. That's where the Jackson County's portion comes. So what's going to happen is that if the district is approved, that third of that funding will basically come to its own district, like the JSWCD. They're similar in their roles, but they're not the same. The Soil and Water Conservation District, for example, wouldn't be doing a 4-H program, things like that. So that's probably the difference. They're just two different organizations, although doing similar things.
I understand that, but we're just getting too many special interest groups going on. We've got all these special districts that are going on, all of the little taxes,
and that
6 cents here, 20 cents here, $5 here. It all adds up, and people aren't going to be able to live in their houses, and you guys are going to be in business if you can't sell anything because taxes are too high for people.
I'm not arguing. I agree with you there, and thank you for that call. You make so much sense, and we've talked about that, Larry Dowie. I mean, that 3% creep in property taxes year after year is just relentless. And you're right, having increased, and the reason we have so many special districts being formed is that, remember, Measures 50, when the legislature tinkered around, you can't go above $15 $1,000 in the main property tax, but you can if you form a special district. All of a sudden, Oregon now has more special taxing districts than they do cities and counties combined and school districts combined. That's the problem.
Yeah.
It's just, anyway, it's a problem, and I understand, and in the taxes, as those property taxes continue to creep, and that really does mess up a whole lot of people. I understand exactly what you're saying. I don't have an answer for it. I understand it. We talk about it all the time. It's hard. And if the League of Oregon Cities has their way, Larry, and they put a tax on changing the way the assessed value is done. In other words, what they're trying to do, if you sell a house, say at $200,000 and it's assessed at $100,000, the new assessed value goes to the new price that you sold. You'd have huge increases in property taxes. That's crazy. Anyway, it just goes on and on. Anyway, before we get out of here, Larry Frank here from RE/MAX Ideal Brokers, tell me what your agents are seeing here in the market. I mean, tell me what you're hearing day after day. What's happening, what's selling, and what should people kind of expect in the future here?
You know, it's great to see smiles on people's faces again. My agents are talking that any property that's 225 and under, if the property shows well, is off the market within a short time, 5 to 10 days, and you're going to probably be getting multiple offers. The low end properties are just going, and it makes a lot of sense if you think about renting compared to purchasing. You know, the tax benefits and what have you. The high end properties, let's say $450 and up, we're getting activity on those properties as well. And as it has always been, as the Californians sell their properties down in Huntington Beach, Newport, and they move up here, they bring that lump sum of cash. You know, they're able to make that change, and as we've seen, people usually use the sale of the family home to supplement their retirement dollars, and so it's getting back into a working regular market. So the agents in my office are really pleased with the activity level and the quality of some of the clients that we're getting.
People still moving here, aren't they?
That's correct.
I mean, that's the thing that just it doesn't surprise me but that's continuous. I mean, we hear that year after year of people moving here for days like this.
Look outside.
Look outside.
Look outside.
We didn't have any water this summer, but we got it's beautiful right now, isn't it? Well, I agree with that. I think that's really true. The high end, I think it was over the winter things kind of seemed to slow down a little bit. You weren't getting those multiple offers on the lower end properties in our communities, but you're saying it's back on that again. So in other words, consumer, be ready. You know, the worst thing to me is when you're with somebody, as you're a real estate broker with my clients, is that if you're not ready to buy it and you find the house that you want and you don't have your pre-approval letter, you're not ready to do it, you're going to lose it.
That's exactly right.
And that's the story here is you have to be ready to go, don't you, Larry? If you're going to go look and you like something, you have to act now. You
know, you've got to do this. You've got to start looking on the internet, educating yourself on the market, finding out whether or not this market has what you're looking for. And once you found that out, you need to find out what your financial ability is, what you comfortably can afford. And that's going to a mortgage loan rep, whether it's at a bank or whomever, and getting a credit report and finding out where your income to debt ratios are and what payments you qualify for. And then you wanted to go out and interview agents and go out and look at properties. But the thing is that agent is going to do his best to get you that house. And if he's prepared and he walks in, he puts down a pre-approval letter from your banker saying, all we need is an address. Guess who? Martha? Be ready. These people are going to do it.
And sign right here.
That's right.
Sign right here away. Well, there's lots going on. And so new construction here is doing well. We're getting back to that. So that's a good sign as well. The economy improving there. Well, that's kind of a market watch, Larry. I have a quickly for an hour today here on KMED. Hope you learned something from it. Our listeners is, we always try to find good stuff. And there's always trying to enhance the value of your property. We want you to, of course, be a good, smart real estate consumer. That'll do it for the Real Estate Show today on KMED. Pete Belcastro here. Have a great week, everybody. God bless you. We'll talk to you next Saturday.
Thank you for listening to the original Real Estate Show with Pete Belcastro and Joe Brett, the Real Estate Guys. For advice, guidance, or counsel on any of our topics, or to watch a replay of today's show, visit our website at realestateShowOregon.com. This show is sponsored by RE/MAX, Ideal Brokers of Southern Oregon, Ticor Title, All Cities Property Management, and the Jackson Soil and Water Conservation District. We'll continue our weekly quest to enhance the value of your property and to make you a smart real estate consumer when we gather every Saturday and Sunday on KMED for the one and only original real estate show.